Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
And now we have the Joseph KARP on our phone. We're going to be talking to him about many things. But one thing that I realized, Joe, is your article that just came out in the June issue says, "Be smart, avoid probate with a living trust." I thought everybody knew that by now.
No, they don't. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll tell you what people believe. Then I'm going to tell you why some of the other probate avoidance devices don't work as well. Okay, number one, many people believe if I have a will and it says who gets what everything, then there'll be no probate. And that's because there's a misconception, which is that the will, because it says so, it will happen without the court system. And people think, well, it's only if you don't have a will you'll have probate. No, what a will is a mechanism that says who gets what assets, and I'll explain that in a minute, but it has to be sanctified by the court system. And that sanctification is the probate system. Because if you walk into the bank and you say, well, my mother passed away, here's her will, I get everything, she and my sister didn't get along for years, or me and my sister are the two beneficiaries of my mother's will, we're the only children, so she has an account in her name, would you please cut checks for the two of us? The bank's going to go, whoa. We don't know that this is a valid last will and testament. We don't know that your sister doesn't have one that says she gets everything and you get nothing. We don't know whether this was legally signed and executed. Go to court, go through probate, and the court will tell us who to give the money to. And what the court basically says is give it to the personal representative, that's the Florida term for executor, and the executor will then have to do their job. Part of their job is to marshal the assets. Second is to pay all the creditors. And then third is to distribute the funds. And that has to be done and proven to the court step by step. That is the probate process. Now, if you don't have a will, you still have probate, conceivably, and I'll talk about when you wouldn't. And that's still, but the way that's going to go through is the judge decides who's in charge of the estate, not the person who died. They didn't write it down. And the legislature has set forth who the beneficiaries are. And that can be very, very challenging this day and age because everybody, from what they perceive to be the typical family, and there is no typical family anymore, figures, well, the spouse gets everything and then the kids. But with the number of second marriages out there, if there's children from the first marriage, the second spouse gets only half, and the kids get the other half, even if they're estranged. So that's the way probate works. Now, and it's costly and time-consuming, and it's public, and you got to dot every I and cross every T, and you can't have a sense of informality, even to the extent that if you're the sole beneficiary and you're the only child and you're the one in charge, you still have to prove to the court you did all of that stuff. And some judges are totally unrelenting. I mean, we had a case where a lady died, and her daughter who lived in the lady died in Idaho. Her daughter lived in Idaho, but she had a condo in Florida. The will left everything to the daughter, left the daughter in charge, and she was an Idaho resident, so we did what's known as an ancillary administration, because when there's real property in another state, you have to do that. The judge, number one, made her post a bond because there might be creditors, And the judge would not even let her transfer the property until he saw an appraisal of the property that it was being transferred for fair market value. And it's like, what are you going to do? Go back into court and argue with the judge, hey, wait a minute, she's the only child, she's the only beneficiary, she's getting it, why do you need an appraisal? That's her problem. Doesn't matter. She's not going to sell it for less than fair market value and cheat the other beneficiaries, but it just gets to be cumbersome. The other way to pass assets without using a trust is to have joint ownership and beneficiary designations.
So give an example of that, please.
Sounds great.
Joe, would you give an example of that, please? Those are big words.
Okay, sure. Number one, I have a life insurance policy. I name my kids as the beneficiary. I have a bank account. I name my kids as the beneficiary. Or I have a bank account, and my son helps me do everything, so he's a joint owner with right of survivorship. So he's on the account so he can sign checks and he can pay bills. Well, I die. A death certificate proves that he's entitled to the bank account. A death certificate proves that the insurance company or the bank or the brokerage firm will transfer the monies to the beneficiaries. And those will go automatically to the beneficiaries. There are two sets of problems. One, the one with leaving it all to the one son or daughter in the joint account, they may not have the same integrity when you die that they did when you were alive. They may say, well, I got it, it's mine, I'm not sharing it. Number two is frequently there are debts that have to be paid. We didn't cover everything for the funeral bill, etc. And then we have to go say, okay, everybody chip in, we got to pay this. And all of a sudden you have a reluctant child who says, I'm not giving it out of my money. I inherited this. You figure that out. I don't owe that money. And thirdly, we run, and if the child won't, sometimes the child's spouse will say that, don't you dare give that money. The other thing is we always have the house. And I am very reluctant to put anybody's name on that house but yours. Life is funny, life changes. And people always say, well, I've heard about this deed and that deed and this deed and that deed. And they talk about the ladybird deed, which is a deed with a beneficiary designation. But title companies now want people to, even though it says, I own this house, I can do whatever the heck I want with it, and when I die, my children get the house, or my son gets the house. And you would think, well, it's like a bank account. I can pull the money out because that's sort of what it says. Yet title companies have said they want your son and daughter to sign off on that deed because their name's on it. And you say, well, they're wrong. And I say, you're right, they are wrong. But they're the title company, and who the heck is going to be able to sell a house if they can't get title insurance? Would you buy one without title insurance?
No, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. There's a problem there. If the title company won't insure it, there's a defect in the title potentially. So you got to get it. So we run into two problems. Sometimes title companies give a problem with that. So I say, don't put anybody's name on your deed. It's not worth it. The safest way is to have it in a trust. The other issue is, again, you were in the real estate world for many years, Anita. You've worn many hats.
Oh, yes.
Somebody dies. How quickly does the house get sold?
Oh, that's what they want to do right away.
Okay, but how quickly does
Not
it get
quickly,
sold? Well,
unless it's a hot real estate market.
First of all, we have to fix the place up. You know, Mom in the last couple of years didn't spend any money on the condo.
True.
It's not really saleable. Two, we're going to have to continue to pay the HOA fees or the condo fees. We're going to have to continue to pay the property tax, the homeowner's insurance. And by the way, homeowners insurance goes up when you die because if there's nobody living in there, it's a vacant house, higher risk factor because nobody's going to see the fire.
Huh.
And you say, well, I won't tell them. Well, guess what? When the fire happens, they'll say, oh, Mom died. It was Mom's estate. Well, we didn't insure Mom's estate. It was a vacant house. We weren't informed. So you got to tell them. So you're going to need money. Where's that money going to come from? Who's the chief and who's the Indians? And will all the Indians cooperate? Will they do that?
That's a big
So
if.
if you have a trust, money's in the trust, property's in the trust, these things get recalculated. Somebody's in charge of it. Now we have a chief. They're accountable and they owe everybody absolutely a fiduciary duty to make sure it's done. But then you have somebody in charge. Somebody who's going to be able to pay the bills. Somebody who's going to be able to pay to fix the apartment up. Somebody who's going to handle the affairs. Somebody who's going to sign with the real estate person so that it can get done. So it's a very effective and efficient way to do it, and it's problem avoidant. Some people think, well, if I just name everybody as a beneficiary, there'll be no court. That doesn't mean there won't be any problems. All of your listeners, tell me how wonderfully, cooperatively, and how your kids all see eye to eye. Their spouses will be no issue. There's going to be no problems. When
Joe,
I'm dead.
what hot issues and items you've just said. I'm laughing here at the studio because I can't believe what goes on with it. And a lot of times it's the daughter-in-laws. It's the people aren't even directly involved.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God.
And remember, don't delude yourself that whatever behavior that existed in the past to help make life easier for you, where your son said to his wife, look, don't upset my mother. I know you don't like my brother. I know you think my brother's a schnurrer who's been taking money all of these years. I know that you think X, Y, and Z. Please don't upset my mother. Let her be. Just, you can sit there and be cold, but just don't stir the pot. Yeah, well, your mother's dead now. Let's see the pot get stirred.
Oh, my God.
That happens. It's human nature. You know, so the son says, oh, I'm going to miss my mother so much. And the daughter-in-law says, yeah, because you're going to have nobody to go to get money every month.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Explosion. And it's just much easier. So you have to look at the other side of it. 25 years ago, everybody was only interested in taxes. Taxes are not going to be the issue for virtually everybody. For virtually everybody. They're not going to be the issue. The estate taxes aren't going to be there. We're at $10.5 million for a married couple. If you're there, God bless. But your listeners are not, for the most part, I mean, it's 0.1% of this nation that faces estate taxes. And those people, by the way, do have trust, except for the Joe Robbies of this world who did poor planning, these people have taken care of stuff. The average family, the problems are post-mortem and sometimes pre-mortem if there's disability, handling of the affairs. How does it get done smoothly, mildly, quickly? How does it get done without a battle royale? How does it get done cheaply? And a trust is a very efficient way to do it. It's putting everything into a pot so that one person can pay everybody and pay all the bills and handle everything from that pot.
And something you said to me about funding, though, the trust, that's something else that comes up, isn't it?
Right. If you don't put the assets in the pot, they ain't there. So if you have to retitle accounts, you deed your property to the trust. That doesn't lose your homestead exemption. It still keeps it, but it's got to go into the trust. You've got to take the brokerage account and put it in the trust. You got to take the bank accounts and put them in the trust, not the IRAs or the 401ks. They're a separate entity, separate issue. So you also have to know what shouldn't go in the trust and why and what the reasons are. But the amount of people who say to me, this is the other thing, because, and we'll talk about my workshops in a minute, I'll have people come into me talking about the absolute lack of knowledge. They've done a trust, and they've done what's known as a pour-over will. And the pour-over will says, if I miss something that's not in my trust and it's not going to pass to a co-owner or a beneficiary, that asset goes to my trust. And people will come in and I say, I want you to fill out these forms. I want to know what your assets are, how they're titled, what's going on, and I want to see your documents. And the people come in and they'll have a trust, and they'll have their pour-over will, and the trust will be adequate. I always think I can do something better than anybody else, but it'll be adequate. So I'm not even getting to the documents that we think should be changed and why there are so many ticking time bombs out there with mandatory tax planning and restrictions that people didn't even know existed. But I say, well, yeah, but nothing's in your trust. And they say, yeah, well, we have a pour-over will, and when we die, the will says everything to the trust. I said, yeah, but that involves probate. They said, the lawyer didn't tell us that. We didn't know that. We thought, again, we go back to what people thought in the beginning of our conversation. If there's a will, it automatically goes there. And no, the answer is if you're using a will to pass assets, it's going through the probate court. Doesn't matter who the beneficiary is. So I'll come in with people who have, quote, unfunded trusts. They haven't retitled their assets. Everything is in their own name. And they think they've avoided probate because they did a trust. That's like saying, I think I'm safe because I have a locksmith put locks on my house, but you know what? I didn't bother turning the locks because I've got locks. That's enough. No, you better turn the locks. You need to lock it up. You need to do what you got to do.
Wow. And this must be very frustrating for you because you have these wonderful seminars which you talk about all these things, and yet people can go, it's free, and they can learn all this at your seminars. I do want to talk about those a minute, if I could just give the dates and everything here. They're not going to be any until July, but that's good. It gives you...
No, I have June.
You have June?
Week.
I'm sorry. So
yes.
I have my July in the seminar page, I guess, because we came out with June already.
Because normally the Boomer Times doesn't come out till after.
That's right. Okay, well, we want them.
Okay, so here's what we do. These are free public workshops where we talk about trust, regular estate planning issues. We talk about Medicaid and nursing homes, how to get it, what you got to do. We talk about veterans benefits for long-term care. Jenny Bernstein, who's board-certified in elder law, does it up in St. Lucie, and I'll be doing it in Palm Beach Gardens and Boynton Beach. In St. Lucie, it is Tuesday, June 6th, that's this coming Tuesday, at the Port St. Lucie Holiday Inn, which is on South Federal Highway, at 1:30 in the afternoon. It takes about till 4. It's a very inclusive. There's a break in the middle. And she will be doing that on Wednesday, June 7th, at the Palm Beach Gardens Marriott. That's right off PGA Boulevard and RCA Boulevard. I'll be doing it at 1:30 in the afternoon till 4. And then on Thursday in Boynton Beach, June 8th, at 1:30 to 4 at the Courtyard by Marriott on North Congress. That's between Gateway and Boynton. If people want to come, and you're welcome to come, you'll get a lot of information. Here are the benefits. Not only will you get a lot of information, but we will offer a free consultation to anyone we believe we can help. You get a 1-hour free consultation. I was listening to the radio before I came on, and it talked about that Dr. Andy Mencia's practice can do for people. And he said, amongst the other things they said, is you can go there for a second opinion. Okay? Well, we offer something better, a free second opinion. So if you already have your estate plan and you think it's good, why would you turn down a free second opinion? So we do that, and also for people who don't have it, need it, and are interested in Medicaid and long-term care, we'll talk about what's going on with the laws and how they're changing. So seminar attendees will be offered that. We take no reservations, but I'll give people the phone number and the website if they want information. Our phone number is 1-800-893-9911. 1-800-893-9911. Our website, so you can read about it and take more information if you didn't write this down fast enough, is KARPlaw, KARPLAW.com, and it has the seminar schedule. So you don't have to wait till July. We're doing them next week. And you got to get on the stick. I got to tell you, what I'm discovering in my office right now is the number of people who are calling in for crisis intervention for Medicaid, and because people are declining, and if they knew they were declining, yet they waited and waited and waited. Now they've got the problem. I have a client, husband and wife, been my clients for 15, 18 years. And I've been telling them as I've been seeing them decline, they have one child, their daughter, they trust her implicitly. I said, you guys ought to consider making your daughter a co-trustee at this point, because one of you is going to fail. The other one's going to be preoccupied with taking care of the parent who's in a diminished state. And you're going to have nobody to handle everything and nobody to assist because you can't show that dad is disabled means that daughter can now serve. We've got mom in. Let's do it. And Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a signing of papers Wednesday night. And the people are paying a chunk of change extra because of the emergency, because after the seminar in Palm Beach Gardens, me and another staff person are going to my client's home or to the rehab facility because dad is cognitive but not able to do stuff. Mom's overwhelmed. All she wants to do is take care of him. He paid all the bills. He did everything. The daughter's in town. We're going to be signing new papers in either a rehab facility or the home. I have somebody working overtime this weekend to do it. And I don't ask people ever to take overtime, but my employee recognized it. But guess what? Just like any other emergency, my client's not paying the lower freight. I can't accommodate and pay overtime and do stuff. They're dealing in an emergency that I warned them that would happen. I mean, if you don't check the air in your tires, don't be surprised if it's flat one day.
Good analogy. Well, I know that I have, of course, Joe KARP is my attorney, and he worked with me on all the changes in our life, and I will be going back to get papers signed, but he is so good, everyone. If you really haven't been to an attorney yet, shame on you. But if you have, make sure that person really knows what they're doing. And you can go for a second opinion by going to the seminars that he has that are free. Just see what he has to say. I know that you will just love him when you go to see him. He is kind, he's smart. And Joe KARP has certainly made a name for himself in South Florida. So it's Joseph KARP. And remember, the phone number, if you do need information, is 1-800-893-9911. And Joe, I'm so happy now that you have both your sons with you, or just the one?
No, just one.
One son with him now. It's just a big dream. So, Joe, I certainly hope that, people do come. Your seminars are great, and I hope that they will listen to what you've said and to read the article that Joe writes an article every month in Boomer Times, and you ought to be saving those articles. Of course, I've told you, Joe, that one day you can take all those articles and make it into a book. You know that. You've been doing this for like 19 years with us.
I don't think anybody's written a column for you other than you longer than that.
That's right. You are the best, I must tell you. You are really so special, and we're so happy to have you doing this with us. So
and
anyway,
as your listeners know, so are you, and your listeners love and adore you.
Oh, you're very sweet. Well, it's the same for you. And we certainly look forward to seeing you again soon. I have an appointment sometime in, I guess, June to see you, so I will do that. Thanks so much for being with us, and enjoy your week.
Everybody else, too. Come to the workshops.
Yeah.
You'll learn something.
You will.
You'll be entertained. I make death, dying, and ending up in a nursing home.
Right.
Light and humorous.
I know you do. Thanks, Joe, so much.
Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.